Hi there, Christian. So you've sent us an essay for your IELTS preparation. That's wonderful. Let's take a look at what you wrote. First, I want to address the question that you asked, which is about spelling. Spelling is somewhat important. It is graded in your lexical resource, in the lexical resource criterion. So you do need to be careful about your spelling. You can't have too many errors, or you can have errors that cloud the meaning of the words. Some kind of spelling errors are more important than others. For example, if you misspell a word and it creates confusion, then that's a bigger problem than if you add an extra L, for example, or an extra R. These are easier mistakes to deal with rather than if you spell a word and that new word creates complete confusion. Okay, so that's a little bit about that. Let's now take a look at this essay that you wrote about marketing. Here's what you said. The topic of the discussion is international marketing and the impact, positive or negative, that it can have on a country. The negative perspective, as presented in the text of the cue card, is that it can be seen as invasive and an intrusion into the country question. My opinion is that indeed international marketing is to a certain degree an intrusion that has an impact on commercial trends and as a result on society in general. However, bringing new products to a market has the effect of creating a competitive market, which usually results in lower prices and better quality. Therefore, I find it much necessary to allow non-local products to be promoted on the local market. All right, so there's a handful of things happening here. Clearly, this is your introductory paragraph. All right, let's just highlight it so that we're focusing on the same thing. What's missing for me is here training on how we actually write essays, not just for IELTS, but any sort of academic essay. I thought that the beginning of your essay was a little awkward. It certainly doesn't follow the kind of style that we're used to seeing in an academic essay. Okay, with this as presented in the text of the cue card and the negative perspective, all this felt really rather awkward and rather strange to me. There is a style that we expect to see. Okay, and so it's important to follow that style in your essay writing. And if you're on the online course, you get tons of information on what that template is and what kinds of sentence structures you can include. So, for example, you could have said something like, throughout the developing and developed world, there is considerable debate regarding whether international marketing is advantageous in terms of education and the spread of culture, or whether it is more negative, creating an intrusion into the host country. Okay, and then you could have said, my opinion is that indeed international marketing is to a certain degree an intrusion. You didn't need a comma here. That has an impact on commercial trends and as a result society in general. And then this was fine, but then this grammatically is wrong, so it should have all been one sentence. So therefore I find it very necessary. Not even very necessary, because necessary by itself is an absolute adjective. It doesn't take any sort of adjective or adverb before it. You can't say very necessary. Something is either necessary or it is not. So I find it necessary to allow non-local products to be promoted. All right, so some changes there, and then it would have been a good introduction. The positive perspective, get rid of this presented in the cue card. We don't call it a cue card. We don't refer to the task. We just write as if we saw it, and then we just move on, okay? So the positive perspective is that international marketing is a necessary and economical form of education. Now, you kept putting things in quotes, both here and in introduction. You don't want to do this. I understand that you're quoting the prompt, but still, this will be a disadvantage for you in your writing. You want to rephrase this language as much as possible, because remember, it is a language test, and you're trying to test that you have other words. You have a repertoire of language that allows you to rephrase some of these things a little differently. So, the positive perspective is that international marketing is a necessary and economical form of education. I do not know to what degree international marketing can be seen as a form of education. All right, careful with this. I would prefer the word inform instead of education, as marketing mostly informs the general product regarding certain products. The public, regarding certain products. However, I do think that international marketing is is necessary. You said the same thing before. As the public should be informed of all the choices that it can have regarding certain products and services. All right. You again use a lot of repeat vocabulary, and you didn't really go into much detail. You're simply saying it doesn't educate, it informs, but you never explained this. You never really went into detail. So as far as an idea is concerned, it's rather undeveloped. In conclusion, I believe both arguments presented in the cue card are true. However, in my opinion, both aspects can only be seen as having a positive effect on the country, be it from an economical perspective or a social one. My arguments are that economically, a country can benefit tremendously from a competitive market. A competitive market puts pressure on the various companies, local or international, to create better products and give high-quality services. Otherwise, they risk losing, careful with your spelling, goodness, their clients and, in the end, becoming bankrupt. Also, I must add that by informing the general public about the various options that they can have for different products and services can only have a positive impact on society. This, I believe, is the only way to give people freedom of choice, which I personally find very important. I would like to end my essay on these two aspects of international marketing by mentioning that the countries that rejected the free flow of ideas and information were always the poorest and the most corrupt countries in the world. Therefore, I can always support international marketing along with all the aspects it entails. Okay. So here's the good news. The good news is that you clearly have a nice level of English, your grammar, your vocabulary. I mean, yeah, were there mistakes? Absolutely. There were mistakes. And these are things that if we continue to work together, we absolutely have to overcome. Because there are quite a few mistakes. But the good news is that the mistakes are not serious mistakes. They're not mistakes that lead to any other problems like a lack of coherence. It's not like I couldn't understand what you were trying to say. I could at all points, even though I recognize that there were errors. However, those errors were consistent enough to prevent you from getting one of those higher band scores. So if you're looking for a 7, 8, or a 9, you would not get it in grammar with this writing. Okay? Because there were consistent errors. However, for me, this is one of the lesser problems. The bigger problem for me is that it is clear that you have not had any sort of tutoring in, or any sort of preparation in IELTS writing. Any sort of academic writing, that is. And this is something that on the course you would gain. You would understand the structure of an academic essay, the sorts of things that we include, the sorts of things that we never include, and the style, because it is a stylistic kind of thing that you have to learn. So personally, I would love to see you on the course. I think that because you do have a nice writing style, you would benefit from it very quickly, immediately, and most certainly it would change your writing style and get you to the score and get you to the place where you need to be. So let's see if that's something you can do. Again, I think you've got some right elements, but you really need some assistance, some guidance to pull them all together and get you to where you need to be, okay? So hopefully we can do that. I look forward to seeing more of your work in the future. Good luck to you.